Hi Chris, a bit of a frustrating end there. You got your best T20 figures, but denied the chance just at the death. I think.
Yeah, I mean it's a frustrating night for everyone. I'm sure just as much as for you guys as it is for us. I think we're, as cricketers, we're always keen to play the maximum amount we can. I think 20 overs game is always the better option, but the more the overs come down, it becomes a bit of a lottery. Especially, I think, if you haven't won the toss, it becomes a bit of a tricky one. But obviously after the start we've had there with the ball, it'd been nice to have probably got through 5 overs, but it's the way it goes. But we feel pretty happy with how we've performed, so we'll take the positives.
I was going to say, the 2-0 series win must be very satisfying. You seem to like building up towards a peak for the World Cup. Is that how it sort of feels in the dressing room?
Yeah, definitely. I think coming from Pakistan, obviously winning there, and then into this series, I think you're always looking at the bigger picture of the World Cup, but at the same time, when there's a series in front of you, especially against Australia, you want to win. And you'd much rather be sat here, I think, having won a series going into World Cup than having lost it. But obviously there's not too much emphasis on what's obviously gone now. We've obviously got to look forward to the World Cup, but it certainly gives us a bit of momentum and it makes the dressing room feel confident that we can go and win against great teams. Obviously Australia world champions in their own conditions, with the conditions that we're going to face in the next month or so. So pretty pleased.
Is there any one thing that sort of stood out about the last few weeks? I mean, it was a difficult summer as well, so to bounce back.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general we've always been a side. I think I just heard Finchy say the same. I think generally sides want to bat second. On good wickets, chasing down totals is generally an easier way to go about it, especially with sides batting really deep. You can almost chase any score. So the fact that we've won the games in this series, particularly bowling second, I think is probably the big takeaway for us. Shows that we can defend totals on good surfaces in challenging conditions when it generally favours the bat. So I think that's probably the big takeaway.
Can I just ask how this year has been and maybe how satisfying it is to be out here and play and back on the field?
Yeah, I mean, very satisfying just to be back on the park, really. You miss cricket, especially I think when you get past 30, you don't want to miss any cricket. I think earlier in my career, you have breaks and you kind of quite enjoy the break. Whereas this time round, it felt like I was kind of missing opportunities to be playing for England. And it has been a tough 6 months, both physically with my knee and then mentally as well. I obviously watch a lot of cricket. It's not always best for you when you're not going to be around the team. So it's just satisfying to be back amongst the squad, back playing for England. And just thoroughly enjoying it really to be back out there and back with the lads.
Chris, that first over kind of couldn't really have gone any better for you.
Yeah, no. I mean, I didn't expect Aaron to run at my first ball, and I probably didn't expect it to swing as much as it did either, to be honest. I mean, the conditions were quite nice to bowl in with the ball swinging around, but obviously when you get 2 wickets for your first 2 balls, it always helps. And as I said, it'd have been nice to have probably go out there for a little bit longer and tried to get the win. But I couldn't have asked for it to the start to have gone any better.
So your pedigree taking wickets with the new ball is really good. What do you put that down to?
I try to keep it as simple as possible, really. I like to do my homework on the guys that you come up against at the top of the order. The top 3 batters in particular. And I think generally in the T20, if you can pick up an early wicket, it gives you a little bit of a period where you can just hammer length and hit a good almost test cricket length. Which I feel is a strength of mine. If I can get an early wicket, then all of a sudden you're on the front foot as a bowler, and actually the power play can then become quite a nice place to bowl rather than a tricky one. Obviously, if you don't take wickets, it's a horrible place to bowl. But I think that's the thing that's worked well for me is obviously if you can pick up that early wicket, whether that's by doing your homework and working out guys' strengths and weaknesses, or just putting the ball in the right areas. But that's what's worked well for me, and that's what I'll continue to do.
I'm not sure if you saw the incident between Mitchell Starc and Joss. Did you see that? Anyway?
No, I only heard of it just when you spoke to Aaron. But what did he do? He just gave him a warning, did he?
Yes, seemingly, yeah.
I mean, in my eyes, that's the best way to go about it. I'm for no issue with warning guys. I personally wouldn't run someone out or mankad someone, if you want to call it that. But a warning is no issue with that, to be honest. Happy with giving guys warnings.
Chris, competition's obviously very fierce for places. How do you see your chances of being in the first World Cup side, and do you think that you've done them a lot of good tonight?
Tonight won't have hurt, but at the same time, I think we're in such a good place as a team. We could pretty much go with any 11 of the 15. Batting order's pretty much set by the looks of things. From a bowling attack point of view, I think we could go with a few different options, which is a great place to be. So I'm obviously hopeful that I'll get the nod, but if I don't, I'm sure that the best 11 will be going out there and trying to do the best for England.
Ben, go ahead. Chris, I know that the big tournament's still to come, I suppose, but you've pretty much outplayed Australia in all 3 matches, and even stretching further beyond over the last couple of years, you've had a great record against Australia. What does that mean going into the tournament, particularly given you play them?
Yeah, it's always good to beat Australia. England versus Australia is a huge series in any format of cricket. You always want to get one over on them. Obviously, the bigger picture is the World Cup. We know that we can't just rest on our laurels here and think that just because we've won this series that we'll dominate the World Cup by any means. I think it's important that we reset. You're going to be coming up against new opposition. Obviously you play 5 group games all against different teams, so you have to adapt to the team that you're playing. Obviously we play Australia again, so they'll be almost even more up for it than you can be for a World Cup game, obviously having the fact that we've beat them here. But I think we obviously played in the last World Cup and beat Australia in the group stage, and they got on to win the tournament. And I think that's just the way T20 cricket can be. I think sometimes you can come up against a side that's has a really good day, and the format in the World Cup is going to be tricky. You can't really afford to lose. You might be able to afford to lose one, otherwise you won't go through. So it's going to be a tough tournament. Come up against some good sides, and I think this series eventually probably will be a thing of the past, and you've got to focus on what's coming up.
Chris, how much are you planning for the swing to be a factor during the World Cup? Obviously, Australian conditions might only swing for a couple of overs. Is it something you can plan for, or do you just work it out on the night?
I think generally as a new ball bowler, you kind of just work it out on the night. You kind of have it in your head that it might swing, but these white balls that have in a bit of a mind of their own, they sometimes do and sometimes don't. A lot of times it does vary on the conditions, the ground that you're playing at. If you have nights like tonight where it's a bit cooler and a bit of rain around, hopefully it does and it will swing a bit more for us. But I think you just have to adapt as a new ball bowler. You have to find your length. You have to find the right line of length to bowl on each wicket you come up against, and hopefully the ball does swing. Personally, from my point of view, it makes the game a little bit more exciting than just fetching it out the stands every time. So fingers crossed it does swing.
Couple more.
And Chris, reflecting on the rotating of fast bowlers and looking into the World Cup, do you think your batting ability is something that you've considered and have been looking towards? Not being given the opportunity.
I hope so. It's something which I've always kind of had in my locker, I suppose, that I can bat down the order. As you said, my chances have been limited recently, but when I have batted, I feel like I have shown what I can do. So fingers crossed that's something which might get me the nod. But as I said to one of the previous questions, we're in a great place as a squad. And whichever attack gets the nod will be the right team to take the first game on.